Hi, this is Robert Goldberg, First Amendment TV, and today we're here with Diane Sare, and Diane wants to talk about the situation that's going on with the Ukraine. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much. So people know I am a former independent candidate for governor of New Jersey, and I am currently on the LaRouche PAC policy committee, and I've been here in Washington, D.C. for the last 2 weeks, and will be here for another week, trying to get a bill of impeachment introduced immediately against President Barack Obama. And what this has to do with the situation in Ukraine is that you've had a coup in Ukraine. There is unbelievable Goebbels-style disinformation about the actual situation there. What occurred is a group led by extremists, followers of Stepan Bandera. Bandera was a collaborator of Adolf Hitler, who killed at least 70,000 Jews and Poles in Ukraine. And the leading parties, Svoboda and the Pravi sector, or right sector, have been holding vigils and demonstrations, marching around behind portraits of this guy. This would be like having a picture of Adolf Hitler in front of a parade in Germany. So what occurred, as people know, there were all kinds of riots and so on. There was an agreement reached with members of the European Union present, where the current president, Yanukovych, agreed to hold early elections, to bring opposition members into his government, an opposition figure as prime minister. But rather than go with this agreement, these people stormed the Parliament building with sticks and clubs and guns and basically drove away 100 members of the president's party and then started taking votes with a short parliament where they declared that Yanukovych has been impeached. They have outlawed speaking Russian, Romanian, Hungarian, and Ukraine. The top rabbi of Kiev has warned Jewish residents, there's about 100,000 Jews in Kiev, or there were, many of them have probably left, that they should stay indoors or flee the country because these are literally Nazis that have run an illegal coup. And as you probably know, and your listeners, viewers may be aware, the Russians have a major naval base in Sevastopol, which is on the island peninsula of Crimea. It's a very old naval base, and Crimea only became part of Ukraine in 1954. It was a gift from Khrushchev, probably never thinking that the Soviet Union was going to disintegrate. So Crimea is about 70% Russian. You can imagine what people there are thinking about Russian being banned by this new rogue government. So what you have is a targeting of Russia, which is not missed on Putin, by Putin or people in Russia. There are 675,000 refugees who've already fled Ukraine, probably Russian speakers, into Russia in, sub-zero temperatures. It's a horrible refugee crisis, and Obama is completely off his rocker. So yesterday he made an emergency executive decree declaring that we have a state of emergency in the United States because people are interfering with the so-called democratic new regime in Ukraine, which was installed as part of a Nazi coup, and that he's demanding all these accounts be frozen. There's a list of people, probably Russians, maybe the Russian president Yanukovych, constitutionally speaking, is still the legitimate president. He's had to flee to Russia. So the thing is being portrayed as upside down. But the danger is, last week, Kerry, our Secretary of State, actually said that we are not excluding anything to pressure Russia on this. Now, can you imagine if Russia started moving all kinds of military hardware into Saskatchewan or Toronto, which is what we've been doing by putting these anti-ballistic missile systems in Romania and Poland, and then started telling us it was because of a threat from Guatemala. I mean, this is the kind of thing we're doing, but now we're backing a literal Nazi coup in Ukraine and accusing the Russians of violating Ukrainian sovereignty because they have troops at their own naval base in Crimea. So it's extremely dangerous, and Obama's completely wacko response with this. Is it a threat? Is it a security threat to an American citizen if someone from the displaced Ukrainian government or a Russian person uses their bank account? He's saying this constitutes a state of emergency for the United States.
So basically what's happening is Russia really made a move because of this new party that came in to overthrow the Ukrainian government, is pretty much a fascist Nazi mentality. And they
correct. And Russia actually has not made a move. I know they're saying in the U.S. it's this big invasion. The truth of the matter is even Brennan, our own director of the CIA, said that Russia has not invaded Crimea, that you can't even call it such. They have fewer than 6,000 troops there.
Well, they're not wearing any identification on their uniforms also, so it's basically being labeled as a terrorist group because there's no...
By the media.
Right.
Right, by the media here. And I'm not sure that all those people are actually soldiers. I think what they try to do is get citizens of Crimea not as the military to keep calm and order, because what happened in Kiev, I mean, they just burned the place down. I mean, it was absolutely hideous. And people want to keep stability in Crimea. And, of course, Russia has a major interest in doing that.
So with things going the way they've been, because this is about 2 weeks this is going on right now, where do you see this heading?
Well, if we don't impeach Obama, I greatly fear that we are facing the worst, that we're heading for thermonuclear war, because he has advisors who are criminally insane. There are people who actually think that somehow you could win a nuclear first strike, or that Russia, which has absolutely no history of ever backing down in such a fight, is going to cave in and back down. That can't happen. So he really has to be impeached. And I would like to share that yesterday I attended a hearing of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, which is chaired, as you may know, by Menendez. And it was supposed to be about Syria and spillover from Syria, but he spent some time talking about Ukraine, repeating these bald-faced lies, talking about the wonderful, non-violent, peaceful protesters who've set up a new legitimate government that really wants to work with Russia. And then his colleague Corker, who's on the Republican side, but they share the same view, said, you know, if Obama had not been so soft and had not backed down to Putin over Syria, we authorized the use of force in Syria. Well, they may have authorized it, but as you remember, the Congress had a vote. The president, under our Constitution, is not allowed to launch a war of aggression. He has to go to the Congress.
He didn't get that memo, though.
Yeah, well, you know what he thinks of the Constitution. He told us in his State of the Union address. He doesn't care about it. He's going to rule by decree. He doesn't like the Congress.
Right.
But here you have these lunatics saying Obama capitulated to Putin. In my book, Obama was forced by the U.S. House of Representatives to obey the Constitution. They prevented him from launching strikes on Syria, and rightly so. But the line from this, you know, Menendez and company is, oh, we should have, Putin now thinks he can call our bluff. I mean, it's really psycho.
Well, it's not that he thinks he can call our bluff. He is calling our bluff because Obama has been weak on his foreign policy. He's been weak in court and lies that he's saying, so he has no credibility. So,
well, not only that, he's supporting, as you know, he's supporting
What was I going to say before the video got screwed up?
You were saying, you were talking about his weak foreign policy, and I wanted to make the point that Obama's foreign policy has been to at enemies of Russia like Al-Qaeda, like Chechnya.
Yeah, I'm going to try calling you back. Remember that question because it's breaking up a little, and I'll re-record it again. So I'll just save this file. Sorry, people, we lost the video connection with Diane Sare in Washington. So I have her on my speakerphone, and we'll record the video this way, and I'll just edit that in. Before we got rudely interrupted by the NSA here, what were we talking about?
We were talking about Obama's foreign policy.
Okay.
Which you said was weak, and I was just making the point that his foreign policy is to aid the enemies of Russia, like Al-Qaeda and the Chechen terrorists who were threatening to blow up the Winter Olympics, if you recall.
Right.
Obama has continued to protect the Saudi-funded apparatus that ran the original 9/11 2001 attacks and the Benghazi attacks. Or as one person put it, I forget which columnist, I'm not sure whether it was Paul Craig Roberts, who was in the Reagan administration, who's written quite a bit about Ukraine, but someone made the point today that Ronald Reagan ended the Cold War. Obama, and I would say not only is reviving the Cold War, but he's putting us in danger of a thermonuclear war with Russia because he is creating conditions which he is trying to force Putin to react or to take an action which we then could use as a pretext for a nuclear first strike. That's the game. And so far, Putin has not reacted, has been very calm, is just pointing out the constitutional international law situation with Ukraine and the fact that at the moment they don't actually have a constitutional government. And is, behaving frankly quite responsibly, but Obama is really off the deep end. And as I was saying in the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee hearing yesterday, our own Senator Menendez from New Jersey, along with Senator Bob Corker from Tennessee, was just a stark, raving lunatic. And that's what really makes it so dangerous. That's why the only way of getting this war danger off the table is Obama's impeachment.
Now, my question, I remember you saying that before, but we got rudely interrupted by the NSA blocking our video connection.
Right.
And my question is, okay, so we get Obama impeached. Who's the next pea-brain that we get into office?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, constitutionally, of course, it would be Joe Biden. There's two aspects of that. One, Biden is not a Manchurian candidate. He actually has foreign relations experience. Unlike Obama, he would probably be inclined to listen to what the U.S. military is saying. But I think perhaps the more important point, and the more important for your listeners, is that if the Congress would stand on its hind legs and impeach this president, then they would have drawn a line which no future president could violate. And that's really the point, that, when we had Cheney and Bush, we had a cover-up of 9/11, we had the story about the weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. No action was ever taken to rein that in, so then we get Obama, who is orders of magnitude even more insane. So it's a real question for the survival of our republic. Will the Congress uphold the Constitution? Will the Congress hold the president to the standard that's required by our founding fathers?
Next question I got is, you're asking Congress to uphold and do their jobs, but it's obvious that they're playing politics because of the upcoming 2014 elections. So a lot of them are not looking to make waves, and there are some that would like to have him impeached. So I
Well,
see.
it's funny that you bring that up because in one sense, that's sort of the way a lot of them are thinking, but they're oblivious to the fact, and you may have seen the polls. The London Economist just did a poll, and they found that 71% of the people who voted for Obama twice now regret it. So Obama is at the absolute lowest approval rating ever. 52% of 18 to 24-year-olds think he should be impeached. So the congressman who began impeachment proceedings, frankly, could become president. I mean, the population would so much rally behind that. But, as you know very well, the Congress, they're not out on the street corners. They don't have lots of conversations with the average guy. So what they're told by the news media, which is owned by Wall Street, which runs Obama, is they're told, oh, no, you can't do this. It would be bad for the party. Remember, Clinton didn't get impeached. He got impeached in the House, but the Senate didn't follow through. And, of course, this is apples and oranges. I mean, Clinton, I think the Senate was right. Lying about sex because you're scared of your wife or whatever it is, in my book, that is not an impeachable offense. I don't condone, I don't think what he did was brilliant, but I think the Senate was right. You don't want to lower the standard to gossip column. This is different. Who wants to defend a president? And we on LaRouche PAC did an interview with Professor Francis Boyle, who was legal counsel for Hank Gonzalez when Gonzalez was trying to bring impeachment charges against H.W. Bush, maybe on Iran-Contra, I'm not sure what. But anyway, he's an international constitutional expert, and he said there are 3 charges for which Obama could be impeached without even holding hearings, which could be brought up from the floor. He said, 1, the bombing of Libya for 250 days, which you might recall Obama never went to the Congress. The Congress never authorized that.
Well,
that's impeachable.
A dictator doesn't go to Congress. A dictator does what they want to do.
Right, but being a dictator is a violation of the Constitution. And frankly, treasonous because Obama is not acting in the interests of the United States.
Right.
The second issue is that he killed, I think it's up to 6 now, U.S. citizens with drones without any kind of due process or criminal charges or anything. That is a violation of our Constitution. And the third is Obama's intent to launch the strikes on Syria. So you have 3 very, very clear cases. And, I mean, I would add Obama's statements in the State of the Union address where he says outright he doesn't have to obey the Constitution, but he's going to dictate with his pen and his telephone or some such thing. So who would like to be in a position of defense? These are very serious charges. And the American population will be overwhelmingly behind impeachment.
So where we stand today, what do you think is going to happen? Or is this just going to play on like a stalemate right now?
Well, it can't play on because we will have thermonuclear war. I mean, if it continues in this direction, that's what we're headed for. I believe there are institutions now mobilized to prevent it, but we can't leave it up to that. I can tell you that there are discussions in the House of Representatives on impeaching Obama, that people are talking about it. This is not pie in the sky. It's not a theory. And I don't know what it will take to push these congressmen off the fence, another insane executive order or something like that. I also would like to add something which caused a huge freak out on Capitol Hill this week. One of my colleagues, Keisha Rogers, who is a young African-American Democrat, a LaRouche Democrat, she ran for U.S. Senate in the state of Texas for Bob Cornyn's seat. They just held the primary elections, and a guy named Alamiel, who spent $3.5 million of his own money to run in the Democratic primary, along with 4 others, tried very, very hard to prevent her from winning the primary. You may have seen some coverage because the national media went bonkers because in a university poll, Keisha Rogers was actually ahead of all the, in the 5 candidates, she was coming in first with 33% of the vote. A black Democrat calling for Obama's impeachment.
Right, I saw that on Fox News. They were playing it because it seems to be interesting how the Democrats are throwing their own under the bus and backing it up and forward and back and forward and back and forward.
Yes, exactly. That's what they're trying to do to her. And what happened was they threw a ton of money in. California sent tons of money. They set up phone banks calling Democratic voters, don't vote for Keisha Rogers. She is not a Democrat. And of course, Keisha said, I'm a Democrat in the tradition of Kennedy and Franklin Roosevelt. I'm not an environmentalist. We need to have nuclear power. We need the space program. Obama has to be impeached. And in Texas, of all places, remember Kennedy and the space program. So what occurred is even though they spent all this money, in Texas, the primary, you have to get at least 50% of the vote. So this Wall Street guy could not secure 50%. So he and Keisha Rogers are now in a runoff for the Democratic nomination. And the party is so freaked out, they refuse to put Keisha's name on their website saying that she's the candidate. The Secretary of State is so freaked out, they have a link saying you have to go to the Democratic Party to find out who the candidates are, and then they don't even name her, even though she got 110,000 votes in the Democratic primary calling for Obama's impeachment.
This is,
and I bring, what?
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, this is where I would like to see one reaction come back and slap the Democrats in a way, is that she files a lawsuit against them for racial discrimination, because they always like playing that card.
Yeah, right.
And they're supposed to be more favorable, they say, the Democrats, to the black and Hispanic and, well, which they never include Asian population, so I'll include them.
Right.
But they're obviously looking to discriminate against her because they think here's a crazy black woman running against them and wants to have their own black president impeached.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and she's really challenging these Democrats and saying, I am taking the torch of John F. Kennedy and Franklin Roosevelt. I stand for building infrastructure, scientific progress. What do you stand for? Why are you going along with this president who's ripping up the Constitution, who's killing people with drones and bailing out Wall Street to the tune of, I don't know, I think it's up to $29 trillion right now. And the other thing she's known for is Obamacare. She's launched a huge campaign against Obamacare, saying it's modeled on the, Hitler's useless eaters. If people are too expensive, cut them off, they can drop dead, and the insurance companies can make a lot of money that way.
Right.
That's what Obamacare is. So she is really gutsy, and the people of Texas obviously appreciated her message. And the Democratic Party is spending, frankly, wasting a lot of money trying to stop her, and so far unsuccessfully.
Do you have any knowledge of how the residents of Texas are taking her candidacy and what's going on and what the Democrats are doing? Are they laughing at this?
I can tell you that the areas where she had the strongest vote are the rural areas where you have a lot of farmers very adversely affected by the severe drought conditions. The cattle herd in Texas is down by 20%. So when you have a candidate that comes out and says, we need water infrastructure, we need to green the deserts, we need nuclear power to desalinate, don't give me this green baloney about how we can't, we have to save a mosquito somewhere so we can't move water.
Right.
This, obviously, they respond to. The other issue is the fracking, which I don't know if you're aware of this. Obama has become a big promoter of fracking, and it uses enormous amounts of water. And they're doing fracking in towns where they only have like 90 days of water left. So they won't have water for these towns, but they're going to have it for this. So this is another major issue for the people of Texas. So in these areas, and I think what I understand happened, I was on with someone from her campaign last night, like people would hear about her campaign. They'd call into the office. They'd say, I really love what you're saying. Can you work with me, send a team to my area? So in a couple of these counties where someone would put us up for a couple of weeks and we would do the whole area, Keisha got over 50% of the Democratic primary vote.
I would like to see the Democratic Party actual officials to be a fly on the wall to see their reactions and hear their conversations, because they always think that they have things under their control and their dictatorship mentality, and it's like someone coming off their antidepressant medication, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you see is a lot of Democrats are not insane and don't like Obama because they went out. This was a Democratic primary. It wasn't a general election. They voted for Keisha Rogers. They voted for Kennedy, not Al Gore, not Obama, not this rotten liberal mush that has taken over. And it's Wall Street. It is very much Wall Street, the leadership of the party today.
Well, sounds very good. Now, I saw, meanwhile, we were talking here by phone, that the connection with Uvu came back. So I guess that's it for this conversation right now. And we'll be hearing more about this.
Great. Thanks very much.
Okay.